Good evening, Who Dat Nation, and happy Wednesday on a Friday to our Bayou Blitz family. I hope everybody is having a great week out there. Sorry about the scheduling conflicts. I know we usually run live on Wednesdays, but we're coming to you with a special broadcast of your Bayou Blitz on this Friday evening. I am Bob Rose. I'm one of your co-hosts of your Bayou Blitz podcast. At the bottom screen is Brendan Boylan, your other co-host. We are joined by Alan Ulrich, our friend from Under the Dome on Tuesday nights, with a special guest. Hey, everybody wants to talk about quarterbacks. Who else to pick the brain of rather than our expert quarterback and very good friend, Jim Everett? Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Doing fine.
Trying to get
Brendan,
rested
how
up
you doing,
after all
man?
the. I'm good. I've been on 4 flights in 4 days, so I'm running on some fumes. But we're here. We're gonna have a great show, and like Bob said, it's gonna be fun talking quarterbacks. Bob and I have stayed away from the quarterbacks here for about a month. We have tried to keep that word off our tongues and let this competition play out for itself. But we're nearing the end. We bring in our favorite quarterback and friend of the show. It's going to be a fun hour or so today.
I can't wait to get this going, guys. Let's get it rolling. Come on.
Well, Jim, first and foremost, how's the health? How's the family?
Everything's good. Got a new left knee. Family's good. You know, I told you earlier we moved down to Fort Worth, and so we're down here in Texas, a little closer to Who Dat Nation. So life's going good for us. A lot of moving parts. We got a bunch of kids, college graduates. They're all down here, so we're joining the whole fam down here. Yeah, it's good.
That's great.
Well, Shireen DeWalt and the rest of my original Go Black and Cold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise fans, family, I will do our read at the end of the show, and we're going to try to rope Mr. Everett here and his family into the cruise. I'm going to be sending him some information personally, but we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, what's on everybody's mind is the Saints quarterback competition between second-year quarterback Spencer Rattler and rookie second-round draft choice Tyler Shuck. No regular season starter has been named yet, but Rattler is going to reportedly get the start against the Denver Broncos to wrap up the preseason this weekend. Jim, and I know you're a busy guy. What are your impressions about both Rattler and Shuck so far this training camp?
Well, I mean, we got to throw Hainer in there too. So I mean, when I first looked at it, I thought Hainer had a chance. As far as he's got moxie. I liked him coming out of the draft. I think Spencer had some juice to him. He kind of fell in the draft a little further than people thought he would go. And then Tyler was like, whoa, that was a surprise to me. So anyways, and so I look at it, Doug Nussmeier's the offensive coordinator. Doug was my quarterback when I was a Saint. So I trust what he's going to do. He's worked with Hurts. He's worked with Herbert down in the Chargers, or should we call him Justin Hebert? I'm not sure.
That's the thing here.
Doug's been working with some good people, so I trust that he's going to get the guy in there. I have a feeling Spencer has a little bit more NFL experience that Tyler doesn't have yet, but hey, if Tyler's got the it factor, and you don't know that unless you're there feeling it. And in the game times, other stuff may come up. There may be one guy that is a gamer. You just never know at the quarterback position. Brett Favre was the guy, you see him in practice do stuff, you get him in the game, he does different stuff. Which one of these guys can be the Brett Favre? You know what I'm saying?
Jim, when you came into the league as a rookie, I know you were drafted by Houston and then you ended up in LA. What was the learning curve like for you coming from Purdue and learning an NFL offense and getting used to the speed and the complexity of the NFL defenses when you first came in? How long did it take you to kind of get your feet under you where you felt like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I feel good right now?
Well, we led the NCAA in passing my senior year. And then I came to a team that was just running the ball with Eric Dickerson. So we had a very, very basic offense. So I could not wait to get in there. It was a matter of me being able to say the terminology. Kind of Kellen Moore's system, if he's still running the Ernie Zampese system. You have to do line protection. You have to call the numbers, each one of the receivers, and you have to make it fluid, and then you need to know, is this a side adjustment? Where's my lineman blocking? What's available? What's not? So, those are the things that you have to do as a quarterback, and it has to be quick. And those are the things Tyler's going to have to be doing. Can he speak Spanish fast enough? Can he speak the new language, Russian, quick enough? And so that's kind of where that whole thing rolls, is learning the language and then be able to verbalize it, but not only that, but visualize it at the same time. Coming from a pass, we were coming from a pass offense in NCAA. Our stuff was very sophisticated. So I thought it was an easy transition for me as well, coming in my rookie year. I know, guys coming from some of the other offenses have to learn, like Jared Goff, for example. He never took a snap under center in college. So that was a thing for him. So there's all sorts of nuances that you have to use. What system did the kid play in? How is that going to translate to what you're running?
I'm glad you brought up the name.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead,
Brendan.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up Eric Dickerson's name.
Because, here we go.
I was gonna say, because you have I don't want to say a super similar situation, but some similarities in both Rattler or Shuck. Having a guy like Alvin Kamara behind them. How much easier is it to make that transition and make that jump when you have such a talented back in your backfield behind you?
Oh, it's huge for any young quarterback. I'm telling you, for any quarterback. Derrick Henry makes Lamar Jackson even better. All right, that's how it works. So if you had a guy like an Eric Dickerson, like I had, that makes your job that much easier because the defense is all focused on him. Alvin Kamara, they're gonna be focusing that offense because you got Olave on the outside, you got Kamara there, and everyone else is in prove it mode. And until you can prove that you're a player, those two guys are basically getting double teamed. Until someone else shows up, and maybe that's why they make the trade. Maybe that's why they need a 6'5" receiver. Maybe that's why some of the things that they're looking at doing on the offensive side of the ball, they need to expand. And they giving away a 4th and a 6th round pick for the new tall receiver. That's an expensive proposition, but they need that to play in this division when you've got passers like Baker, you've got Penix over on Atlanta's side, you've got a young kid, and he's got a new McMillan, another 6'5" guy over there. They're trying to build weapons in Carolina, and if you're not keeping up being the Saints, you're gonna be at the bottom of the barrel, and I think Kellen knows that.
And you mentioned the trade for the receiver Vele from Denver. You play with a lot of great receivers. You have mutual friend, Quinn Early, obviously your guys, Allard, Flipper in LA. What is the importance, explain the importance of a big-bodied intermediate target for a quarterback?
Oh my gosh. Well, I really never had a big body. Quinn Early was probably my biggest body, but we're talking about, the T.O.s of the world, the Des Bryants, the Michael Irvings of the world. There's what we call the Alpha X receiver. You have one of those, it's a game changer. I think Jerry Rice or T.O. fits in those molds as well. Maybe C.D. Lamb, Jefferson, those type of guys currently, even Chase. So I think you need to have that. I think Olave is playing that role right now, but you need speed on the other side of him, which I think that we have now. But you also need a slot receiver that can take pressure off the double team. Like I said, if you've got only one guy, you're gonna get him double teamed. The other two guys there's 4 other receivers that can go out. Someone has to be a game changer, and I think that's what they're looking for. I think they've been looking for that in tight end for a while. I don't know where Hill is at right now, but with his injury and all that, it's unfortunate, but they need bodies that can be game changers to compete in this division because it's wide open.
Jim, when you ran the offense in the Rams, when you first got there, how long did it take before Ernie Zampese joined you over there in Los Angeles? And what was the difference like once you got there? How hard was it? Because I know they traded Dickerson in 1987, but how hard was it to kind of transition into a more wide open offense for you?
Yeah, Ernie came in '87, so I was there a year. I learned a real basic system, and then I think they knew next year we need to have a more mature offense, and that's basically a system like Kellen Moore is doing.
Mm-hmm.
You could call it it was Air Coryell stuff.
Yeah.
So Troy Aikman ran it with Dallas for all those years, and so those are the offense that you need, but it takes a while, I would say, for us. And anytime I see a new offense being installed, the first game might not be as good as the fourth game, and you're not going to be as good as the eighth game. So you get better as the season goes. So that's what I would caution Saints fans right now is Kellen's he's gonna be installing stuff. His motion, his in and out motions and all that stuff won't be as crisp maybe the first game as it will be the second, the third, the fourth. So anyways, I think that you'll see as the season advances, the guys stay healthy and they stay with it. I think the Saints have their schedule at the start is super difficult. I think they got the second easiest schedule of all NFL. But I think all the hard games are right at the start. So don't jump off the fence and right at the start because you've got some very, very tough games right out of the gate.
Talking about new systems, new offenses, in all those installations, what advantage is it to have two or even three, if we throw Haener in there, three young quarterbacks to kind of install those systems with you, learn those systems together? Is there an advantage to that opposed to having a veteran come in and have to learn a third language per se when those installations come in?
Brendan, that's a good question because I remember when we were installing Ernie Zampese's offense, we also traded for a guy named Mark Herman, who was a good Purdue quarterback. He came in, and Mark could pull me by the side and say, "Hey, Jim, this is what we're doing." And then he could show me. So it's almost like throwing darts, and he could show me how to throw the dart, different than someone just describing you how to throw a dart. You could actually see it. So I think it's a little bit of a disadvantage not having the older guy in the room. I think having Joe Flacco in the room in Cleveland is going to help all those young guys. I don't see that. If Kellen doesn't have that guy that can help him with this season, I'm sure there's some guys around the league he probably want to bring with him to show him, but he's got what he's got, and I think that he's going to have to make a gamer out of somebody. And the reason why I think Spencer's going to have the edge on this is because he's going to have to be able to play off platform a little bit more than the rest of them, and I think that's more his game. And I think last year you saw rookie Spencer trying to just get around and do whatever. I think you're going to see a little bit more mature, but he can do a little more Mahomes-y type things because that new left tackle is going to have some errors too. I don't care. Any type of rookie young line you're going to have, you're going to have to be able to play, with a little bit of pressure. And it's you're not behind, an offensive line like they have in Philadelphia.
For that reason, would you give Rattler or Haener the slight edge over Shuck at this point to start the season because they've at least been in an NFL game, have had to read an NFL defense? I mean, you talked before about you compared it to how quickly you could speak Spanish, as a rookie. How much more, even with Ernie Zampese coming in a different offensive system in year two, did you still feel more comfortable because you'd at least had the opportunity to read an NFL defense for a year?
Yeah, I mean, once you've been on the field a little bit, Tyler's going to go through his normal rookie stuff, the game speed. I don't care how many preseason games you play. When you go to regular season, it's a different speed. When you get to the playoffs, it's a different speed. and every game's a little quicker. It's hard to show rookies what that is. I mean, it's hard to let them know what it is until you do it. So I know, Daniels last year at Washington had a heck of a rookie season, but that's pretty rare a guy can take it on like he has. But one of the advantages he has is he had some wheels and he could do some thinking while he's moving. Some of the pocket guys are going to have the game speed's a little quicker. That's why I would think Spencer and Hader would have a little bit of advantage because at least they know the speed. But you got to look from a coaching point. They want to be in the games and not throw the games away and do rookie mistakes. So coaches are going to be put in a person that they can trust. If Tyler's that guy, Tyler's that guy. I'm not sure. I'm not trying to make that call. But he would have to be a pretty special person to be able to pick up all the language, to be able to have trust in his teammates, and then a trust in the coaching staff to be able to say, okay, he can go and I trust him. He's going to make the right decisions. And, that's pretty advanced for a rookie. I would imagine in it. And if he gets shell-shocked in the first few games, like I said, we're going to play a very tough. Can he go another 17 games into the whole? Can he withstand? Rookies sometimes need to be fed slowly, and so I still think the advantage.
Did we lose him?
I know. I was just getting ready to say that. Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
He's back.
Your mic's muted.
Nope. Still can't hear.
Still no sound.
All right, how about that one?
There we go.
Now we're
There we
good.
go.
Now we're
Sorry
good.
about that, guys. I meant to hit the
that's
table.
perfectly normal. That's what happens whenever you go live.
Oh,
Somebody's
yeah.
terribly going to screw
Rookie
up.
mistakes we were talking about.
Yeah, right.
So Jim, my question then, which I'm glad you took it in the direction you did. Let's say that they go with Tyler, and Tyler does get shell shocked. When you pull a rookie out to put a veteran in, and say sitting down for a little while, then try putting him back in, does that affect him from the standpoint of maybe hurt his confidence or hurts him in his development if he gets pulled and then put back in later?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Bryce Young that one.
Yeah. I totally agree. I know that.
I really think that we're all competitors. So, I mean, you're going to compete and things are going to happen with your team and quarterbacks. The guys that have been through it, they're not prima donnas. They know that if they're doing things right or not doing things right. But I think that could be a thing I would think of as a coach that would make me think, let me go with my veteran first. That would be my only hesitation on that.
There you go.
With this team having a little bit of a lack of veteran leadership, obviously we talked about Alvin Kamara a little earlier. He would be the A-tier veteran of this offense. Bringing in a guy like Brandon Cooks, who has been around, played with great quarterbacks, obviously played with Drew Brees, played with Tom Brady, played with Jared Goff for a season. How valuable is it for these young quarterbacks to have a receiver like that that's been around the block, might not be as fast as he once was, but a guy who's seen a lot of things?
Well, didn't he play with Jim Plunkett too?
Maybe.
No, I'm kidding. I think that a veteran, experienced receiver is good for the room. I know there was a few of them.
Lost your mic again.
Are we back or?
Yeah,
back.
You're back.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with my mic here, guys. Let's see if I can set this over here. But I think that a veteran in the room is okay, but I think to win, it's a young man's game. And I think that's what that's what you need. I mean, and that's what Kellen's going to be installing. And I know, they have guys that have knowledge. It's good, but I think at the end of the day, especially if you're looking at you need guys that can beat the DBs.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of needing guys that could beat the DBs, we often, especially Alan and I, because we're such historians, we often talk about the gauntlet that your Rams had to run through, in the 80s, and your Saints had to run through in the 90s just to get out of the damn NFC. You had those pesky 49ers, Gibbs Redskins, the Bears, Giants, etc. Give me the toughest defense as a unit that you had to play against in your NFL career.
Well, man, I mean, it's hard to say one league. One team. I would say the 49ers, because we had to play them all the time, because they had guys up front, they had linebackers, they had their secondary with Ronnie Lott. The Saints with their dome patrol was always up there. You go to Philadelphia or even Green Bay, wherever Reggie White was, you had to deal with him. Bruce Smith having to deal with him, and the behind him with the Buffalo. The Buffalo's teams were always good. So it's hard to pick. Even Lawrence Taylor and that group they had with the Giants was so. Yeah, I mean, you just got to try to match up the best you can. Some teams you match up better. We matched up great against the Giants for whatever reason.
We did.
And we would play against Minnesota and have a tough time. So, I mean, it's just funny how matchups work.
It's funny that you mentioned the Giants. I immediately thought of this story that Bill Parcells told what's his name over there? He used to be with NBC for the longest time. He wrote the Monday Morning Quarterback. Long time sports writer. I just cannot think of his name off the top of my head. But anyway, he said Parcells would like to motivate Lawrence Taylor. Like Lawrence Taylor needed to be motivated. And your Rams were playing the Giants that week. And Lawrence Taylor comes in the locker room, and there's a plane ticket for New Orleans sitting on his chair. And he walks into Parcells' office and says, "What's this?" And he says, "Well, I got you that ticket because what I want you to do is I want you to fly down to New Orleans and send Pat Swilling up here because, and y'all don't even have to switch jerseys because it's the same number, but Pat Swilling can handle Rams tackle Irv Pankey. You obviously can't. So send him up here so we can get pressure on Everett. And you just go down there for a week and then come back." Well, you can imagine how Lawrence Taylor felt about that comment. Was very angry, stormed out of the locker room. Needless to say, Irv Pankey did not have a good day that Sunday.
But Irv Pankey had many a good days with Lawrence Taylor.
He did.
But I'm going to say one thing we did. We always made sure the tight end was on his side.
Absolutely.
Or back, or it's something. We never let Lawrence get a free shot, because I see so many offensive coordinators, especially with today's blocking schemes, allowing some of the best pass rushers to go one-on-one with their left or right tackle, which is absolutely insane. You don't let that happen. I mean, you've got to double team. You got to pick the guy you're going to try to take out of the game, and Lawrence Taylor would be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping on the topic of tackles, we already alluded to Banks, the first-round pick for the Saints this year, but also last year the Saints take a tackle in Tuis Fuaga, who's going to be moved over to right tackle. You have a very young tackle duo there. What are some things that you think Kellen Moore can do when installing this offense for the first time to take some pressure off of those guys outside of the obvious, like you alluded to, in making sure a tight end's on that side? A little more difficult when you have two young tackles.
Yeah, it is going to be difficult. I think you're going to have to see who matches up with who. It'll be one of those game technique things, like how's this guy going to match up with this guy? Does he need help? If both guys need help, let's run an 8 set and have 2 tight ends. You know what I'm saying? On both sides. So there's certain things that you can do. Matter of fact, we like to do that against the New Orleans Saints when we were with the Rams, because you just, with Jackson and Swilling, you just needed to try to help out there, and it balances things up a little bit. So there's certain things you can do in your game plan, but eventually the guys have to play. That's it. I mean, you got to be able. What you would like to do with young tackles, in my opinion, is fire off the ball. Let's use their athletic ability. Let's establish the run game. Let's take the pressure off these young quarterbacks. Let's put the ball in the hands of Kamara as much as we possibly can. Let's get our other running back. Let's get Miller going, because he's been kind of nicked up. And is he going to be really the number 2 this year? Because he hadn't really proved that he can be. But at TCU, boy, he could really run. So we need somebody to take pressure off Alvin Kamara too. But we got to establish that run game if we're going to pound it. And with young tackles, you want to beat up the defense.
No doubt. And Jim, trying to give our fans maybe an insight into the mentality of Tyler Shuck, Spencer Rattler, Jay Kaner. We've been trying to do that all night. But and please correct me if I'm wrong. During your career, were you ever in a true quarterback competition? The Rams traded for you to be their starter. The Saints traded for you to be their starter. If you were, what's that do to a quarterback, especially a younger quarterback's mentality? Always feeling like you have to look over your shoulder. Does that make you more gun shy, more conservative?
Hell no. No. You're built for that. You want to be. There's 32 guys that are starting in the NFL, and I don't know how many 32 is of the rest of the world population, but it's not very many. And you want to be one of those guys, and that's what you want to be. And nothing's going to get in your way if you're really a competitor. It's a good question. When I came to the Saints, they had Wade Wilson, and Wade Wilson was wearing number 11. But I picked, and so that's probably one of the reasons I wasn't wearing number 11, because Wade had it. And then I came in saying, I got to beat this guy out. And Wade was a formidable, he was a good talent, and he was smart. He in a long-time NFL coach. I mean, he was good people and good competition, and we both went right at it, and we gave it everything we could. And even when I went down to San Diego, when I was down there with Stan Humphries.
Yeah.
I was going, and they already said, you're going to be the backup. And I was like, no, I'm not. And I wasn't really a good backup, but that's just how things work.
Jim, if you were asked to be a mentor for a young kid, you're talking about how competitive you were. Being asked to be a mentor for a young quarterback coming up, in the back of your head, listen, I'm training this guy to take my job, and I don't really want to give up this job. How hard is that for a veteran quarterback to kind of get that mindset of, my best days may be behind me, and I just want to help this team win?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I know you want the best quarterback room for your team, and you're a teammate first. So I think that anybody that's going over, when you're discussing things, you want to be able to be out loud. What do you see? How do you see this? And you end up going back and forth. I know that's the way I even was with Doug Nussmeier. When he came in, I'm like, Doug, this is what I see. This is what I'm looking for. This is the too high. This is whatever it may be. Now Doug's still coaching. Maybe he'd be telling me what to look for. So it's like, I think it's just one of those things that you're kind of built in a team mentality. So I had no trouble with it. I don't care who it was that came in. Even TJ Rubley, who ended up with the Rams. That was whatever it was, but I still thought I was the better quarterback at the time. But it's just how things work in the NFL. There may be one guy. There may be, if Hainers doesn't get a clear enough shot, he may have that burning desire to be, and maybe that motivates him to be even a better quarterback tomorrow. I don't know, but you're going to have that competitive fire, and if you don't have it, you won't be one of the top 32.
Let me ask you this about Doug, since we just brought him up. Was there a moment in your time with Doug where you thought, hey, this guy could be a hell of a coach one day? And what's his greatest attribute, do you think, as a person, being a coach to these young quarterbacks?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Brandon. What I saw in Doug was he was always open and honest. I think he was – he was a little naive coming into the league, but I saw him settle down. I always thought he had good awareness where he was at. I didn't think he had the biggest arm or this or that, but he seemed to be able to make plays, and he wasn't afraid to try to make plays. But I think his biggest asset for him, and I'm glad to see that he's in coaching, his dedication and his honest ability to communicate what he thinks is best. And Doug was always that way. He was when we had discussions, I never thought, oh, this guy's going to stab me in my back or do it. No, I'm like, dude, we always had discussions. He wanted to promote that. Carl Smith was a proponent of openness, and I think Doug carries that forward.
Jim, old NFC West rivals, New Orleans Saints at LA Rams in Week 9. I know you have a pulse on the Rams situation just as much as you do the Saints. And I respect also that this is obviously a Saints podcast. Tell us what you expect to see from Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams this year.
Well, I think there's been some question marks with Matthew, where his back is at. Mm-hmm. Is he going to be healthy? He's starting to have more flare-ups. I mean, he came to the Rams not a young guy. He came with some mileage on the tires, So, is that catching up with Matthew? I think Matthew's the type of guy to be able to play through pain. I know there was times when I was playing for the Saints, I was playing through pain. I had some back pain in the late part of my career. So you just manage it. I think we're going to see Matthew cut it out and play this year and try to do the best he can. I don't think he's going to be 100% all the time, but I think Matthew Stafford at 90% is still really, really good. So, because he can make all those throws. What do I see against them? I see a physical game. I think New Orleans is going to pride itself both on offense and defense to be physical. I think they have to be in our division. I think you're going to see that week in, week out. Rams defense is super physical. You're going to see a similar defense that you're with Brandon Staley because he's your coordinator. So there's going to be some growing pains on that defense because that defense is a little bit complex, and you bring new language to a new team. There's going to be some learning curves, and so you got to just be patient on that part. But I see two teams being very physical. It'll be a heck of a matchup. I look forward to seeing it. It'll be interesting to see who the quarterbacks are going to be that matchup too.
Jim, that leads to, I guess, my question. Speaking of Brandon Staley and a physical defense, do you think that it would be a good idea? We talk about the running game, but having the Saints be more of a defensive team early, kind of leaning on their defense and the special teams to kind of help the offense along as the installs, as they grow together as a unit?
Well, I think both sides are going to have to grow. They're going to have growing pains on both sides, but I think I think that if we're looking at assets and liabilities right off hand, you got Cam and Mario and Lattimore on the defensive side, guys that have experience. I think you're going to have to lean on that defense. You're going to have to, and you're going to be in some games against some very good offensive talent. So you're going to have you're going to have to force some turnovers. You're going to have some good breaks, and then this offense is going to have to find itself and hopefully find itself early. To expect winning in this schedule.
Bob and I have talked a lot about the need to bring in a veteran quarterback. We kind of talked about that a little bit already. Bob and I have referenced 2019 when the Saints made a trade for Teddy Bridgewater after the preseason concluded. Do you think bringing in a guy like Carson Wentz is a guy whose name I've thrown out a lot? How how valuable would it be to bring in someone Kellen Moore has already worked with? And would you see it to be, I don't want to say a waste of a roster spot, but would it be a wasteful move to bring in a quarterback who has not, but has a lot more NFL experience than the rest of the quarterback room today?
Okay. So, I mean, I think the question, Brandon, is good, but I think the question there is doubting Kellen Moore's decision on who to have. If Kellen thought that Carson Wentz was the guy to have in camp, he would have him in camp. So I'm not going to second guess Kellen and where he thinks that out. I obviously there's no one right now that's willing to pay that price, whatever he's asking. I think you go with what you got. I think Kellen probably took the job knowing that Spencer's good, but let's see if we can get an upgrade. Maybe Tyler's the upgrade. They gotta see if that's going to happen. I look around the division. Bryce Young was a first round. Penix was a first round. Baker Mayfield was a first round, but ended up there. You got a bunch of teams in your own division that spent time on the quarterback position. I'll say this again. I say it on every podcast. I really thought we were going to move up for Lamar Jackson back in the day, and was excited about it. But we took Davenport, and I know I've said it a million times, but I mean it. It's a quarterback-driven league, and there's going to be a time, and I hopefully we get this worked out with Spencer or Tyler. But if it's not, we're going to have to mortgage something to go get the guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's impossible to disagree with. You look throughout the league, and you're either a team that has an elite quarterback, or you're a team that's scrambling year in and year out to get an elite quarterback. The Saints are certainly in the latter, and have been since Drew Brees retired. Now they tried to fix that situation with Derek Carr. That was obviously an abject failure. But there's some similarities between the way you arrived to the Saints. Saints traded for you, looking for a game changer quarterback, but doing so for a team that was kind of deteriorating. They did the same thing, bringing in Derek Carr, needing a game changer at quarterback with a deteriorating team. Where did the situation go? Understanding that none of the four of us were in that locker room or know Derek personally. So from an outsider's point of view, where and how did the situation with Derek Carr go so wrong so quickly?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't in those rooms, or I wasn't. Obviously, if he was the guy, he would probably still be in Vegas. But things turned over there. So, I mean, that's where it starts from. I mean, if things would have gone for real good in Baker Mayfield, he would still be there, but now he's in Tampa doing stuff. But, he walked into a situation with my guy Liam Cohn, who now is the head coach of Jacksonville. Liam Cohn is offensive coordinator, who I would call like an Ernie Zampese type guy for me. So, maybe Kellen Moore is going to be that for Tyler. Maybe he's going to bring the system in that's going to get. I'm not saying that Kellen can turn this around, because about a 30-year team changes every year.
Right.
Kellen to change over the type of guys that Kellen would need for his offense would take about 3 years. He's going to try to win with what they have now. But I think, as we've talked about before, we've been kind of behind the 8 ball on the salary cap and some of the decisions we've made on that. So we've been handcuffed on what we can do, as a team. And so we never really truly got into a full rebuild mode, but we've always been doing patchwork. And I think at some point in time, you have to have a youth movement, and you have to bite the bullet. I think Carolina's doing that. I think Atlanta did that a few years ago, and I think you're seeing them come through that. And I think Buccaneers have been a little bit more on the patchwork side. So, but they've been winning the division. So, there's not one way to build the team. I mean, Rams were getting first-round draft picks for veteran studs and going to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, there's different ways you can build it. So I don't want to second guess it, but at some point in time, you do have to shed your salary cap and go with the youth movement and hit with those draft picks.
I think the Saints are kind of trying to do this right now with Derek Carr retiring on them, and they're now looking at not having a veteran quarterback in the room. So I guess my question would be, like you said, a third of the roster turns over every year. How much patience should the Saints fans have regarding this rebuild? I know, but it's kind of a question, I guess, from somebody who's been in a locker room with a team that's gone through kind of a transitional period, like you did towards the end of your time with the Rams. I'm thinking like 1990, 91.
Oh, they were going through in 91. They went through a full youth movement.
Yeah. So, how much patience should a fan base have, and how hard is that as a player, knowing that we're kind of going through that youth movement right now?
Well, a lot depends on the youth you bring in.
Yeah,
Great point.
that's obvious.
So, if you're bringing in, and this is one thing that I'll give Les Snead a lot of credit for with the Rams, is they don't just bring young guys in; they bring in guys that are captains of their team. They bring in guys that their dads were coaches, or they're football junkies, or they really bring in some football savvy guys. I've been impressed with the football IQ of guys walking through the door. And I really wonder why a lot of the other teams don't look at it, because when you got to live with each other for 5 or 6 months, whatever, man, you better have some quality guys in there, because if not, the locker room goes south in a hurry. And, you can be a great athlete, but not be in a great mental place. So I think mental health is important. I think bringing people in that are have some sort of values, have some sort of athletic ability on top of that, and leadership thing, very much important. So I'll go back to the obvious. It really, you bring in leaders, you bring in young men that are ready to turn into men and have the desire to do it, is different than just bringing in athletes.
I know that you're going to have to run here in a second, so I'll try to keep my question a little bit more on the fun side here. So if you had one piece of advice, if you could sit in the room with Tyler and Spencer one-on-one, and you had one sentence you could give them for advice as they finish up this quarterback competition, what are you saying to each guy?
Brandon, I can't say just one sentence. It'll at least be a paragraph. Jesus.
I know you're on a time crunch. I'm trying to get you out of here.
Man, I would say this. At the end of the day, it's all about moving the chains. That's it. Keep it as simple as you possibly can. Move the chains. Don't worry about what's going to happen at the touchdown or happen there. Just complete the ball. Get to the move the chains. Move the chains. Go on to the next play. Play each play. If something bad's going, don't worry. Get back in and start moving the chains again. Because when you're moving chains, then all of a sudden you eventually start scoring. You start scoring, you start winning, and everything starts taking care of itself. But you've got to first just get first downs, move the chain, do whatever you can to get 10 yards. That's it. It's as simple as that. Everything else is worrying about who's going to be in the Super Bowl or who's doing this commercial or if all these different things that are going on. I think that you just got to stay focused on 10 yards. That's it.
That's well put.
Very much so. That's familiar sounding.
Very good. Guys, I love being here with you. And, if there's any can of soups that you guys need, go talk to Eric Dickerson because he's selling a bunch of that.
Oh, my God. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what he said.
Anyways, you guys, I love the time here. Enjoy it. And
thank you, Jim.
I'll get to me with that charity stuff. That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll do, my friend. Thank you, Jim. Jim Everett, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Everett never fails to disappoint, folks. Good,
not disappoint.
Has become a legitimate friend to us, and for that I'm grateful. And it's tough not to pepper him with fan questions, because this is a guy I grew up watching. I've told him in the past, my favorite quarterback of all time was John Elway, but Jim played at that same time. And I've told Jim, I'm like, you were my second favorite quarterback to watch. I'm not saying he was a better quarterback than Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, Joe Montana, any of those other guys that played then. But if you look at the stats that Jim put up with the Rams, and in the 2 years, his first 2 years with the Saints, they were comparable with all those guys. One of the most underrated quarterbacks to play in his era. And I'm so happy to say that he's as good a person as he was a player.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the one thing that's so special about this podcast, Bob. And we've done it now 175 episodes. We're creeping up on 200, which is crazy in its own right. But the relationships that we've gotten and grown with some of these guys over the years, thinking about Jim, thinking about Delvin Breaux, thinking about guys like Tyrone Hughes. We started with Mike Lewis and Courtney Roby this year, and continuing to grow and have connections with these guys. You do learn, like, hey, these guys were great players in their own right, but they're even better people. And I think that's one thing about Jim Everett that continues to impress me every time we have him on. He's just an A-plus guy. And some guys in the comments, too, I definitely missed it while we were going through and having such a great conversation. But Mark throws in here that he met Jim 2 years ago, class act, great guy. Like, that is the perfect description of the guy that Jim Everett is. So super happy to have him on the show and cut it up and be a guy who has the same sense of humor that we do as well.
Very much.
That certainly helps.
Well, a couple of times I'm watching him bite his lower lip, and I'm like, my God, I've got NFL film footage of him as a Saint doing the exact same thing on the sideline. I'm like, yeah, that's who he is. He's still that same guy. He's older, but he's still that same guy. So, it was a shame I'm so far away with this little TV screen. I had a bunch of his games running in the background while we were talking. I was hoping he'd be able to see it, but I know he's not going to sit there and go, oh, look, you got one of my games on right now. But when he was talking about the struggles of a rough schedule, one of the games I had playing back there was Saints Dolphins from 95. The Saints were 0-5 going into that game. And a lot of odd things happened in it, but he was able to beat the Dolphins, and the Saints came out really fired up, really, you wouldn't think they were the 0-5 team. You would think the Dolphins were the 0-5 team. And good things happened to them. They had a lot of bad stuff, too. Chip Lowmiller was the place kicker for the Saints. And, I mean, it like one of you or me or somebody in the audience out there kicking these extra points and field goals. I mean, the ball was going all over the place. But, Jim kept that team motivated and kept that team going. And really, they won that game on the strength of Jim's arm.
Now, Alan, before we went on the air, and I wish we would have had time, for you to bring it up, after the show started. You had told Jim that Tyler Shuck reminded you a little bit of him. You've intimated that a couple times on Under the Dome too. Tell our audience why you see some Jim Everett and Tyler Shuck, and why that's a good thing.
It's something about his poise for a rookie quarterback. I know the age bit and all that, but that's just a number. I'm talking about the way he carries himself on the field. He looks very level-headed, like the game is not too big for him. And Jim played that way. Jim did not look at the game like, this game is too big for me. This is what he's been preparing himself for. And yeah, he's got the height, he's got the arm that Jim had. But it's just, he looks more like a veteran quarterback than either of the other two. And I don't mean that in a negative way about Rattler and Haener, but I just mean that he looks like someone who's been in the league. He looks focused. He just carries himself like a pro. And that's an impressive thing for me. And I haven't seen that in quarterbacks with the Saints in a long time. Young quarterbacks, obviously Drew Brees and so forth. But I mean, young quarterbacks coming in, they always look like it's a fire drill. It's a scramble drill. When the plays break down, they don't know what to do. And I don't see that out of Shuck. I see somebody he's a rookie, but he bounces back quickly from setbacks, So that's what I see in him.
Now, we know that Rattler is at least going to get the start against Denver this weekend, guys.
Yeah.
We don't know how the quarterback reps are going to break down, whether Haener is going to see any time at all, if so, how much, when Shuck is going to come into the game, and all that stuff. But it does feel like that Kellen Moore is leaning towards Spencer Rattler to at least start the regular season. Now, all three of us have mentioned several times that we fully expect Shuck and Rattler to start multiple games for this team this year. Right now, nobody is saying that Shuck isn't the answer. Nobody is saying that Rattler isn't the answer. But we can all agree that neither of these guys have really stepped forward and taken control of the reins yet. But based off what we've seen through 2 preseason games so far, would you guys agree, if you guys were Kellen Moore and the season opener was this weekend, would you start Rattler to start the regular season? Tell us why your answer is what it is.
Yeah.
Brendan, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I would say yes, I would start Rattler. The reasons, I do think having the NFL experience is giving him an edge at this point. I wouldn't have necessarily thought that when we started this competition because I felt like it was Shuck's job to lose. And while it still is, this is a lot tighter than even I expected it to be. And I do think that little edge to Rattler having started NFL games will serve him well. And serve him well early in the season. It also gives you an opportunity to have a little bit of like reverse Bryce Young last year, right? Where Bryce was playing super well at the end of the year after having some time to sit down and digest everything that was going on per se. I think you give that opportunity to Shuck from the get-go and say, okay, let's sit you down. Let's not throw you to the wolves from the get-go. And let's give you some time to kind of adjust here. Jim talked about being a good teammate first when he talked about quarterback competitions and young guys coming in and being open and being able to communicate. He said Nussmeier was a perfect example of that, right? I think that does give the opportunity for Rattler and Shuck to have that type of connection and those type of conversations and learn and feed off of each other. I also really like the swagger that Spencer Rattler plays with. That is a bias thing. I know I'm biased there. But even the comeback to tie the preseason game last week, there was just a little bit extra juice, I think, in Spencer Rattler in those situations. And I think that bodes well for this team from the jump and gives you some flexibility in bringing Tyler Shuck along. I texted Bob privately, though, about this very topic. And I said, if that happens, I'm concerned because Saints fans are going to lose their minds.
Mm-hmm.
And they will.
Are they going to anyway?
But I think
right.
I think that's the best course of action if Coach Brendan Boylan had to make the decision.
I just think they're too close to call right now. And this game is going to matter a lot. We kind of have some recency bias going on. When Tyler Shuck came in 2 weeks ago against the Chargers and led that 2-minute offense for a field goal, and then came out, threw an interception, it was a pick six, but then came right back and threw a touchdown pass to Mason Tipton. Everyone was ready to crown Shuck the starter. And then last week, the same thing kind of happens, The offense struggles a lot in the first half against Jacksonville. Rattler comes in to begin the second half. He leads them to 2 field goals, but then gets right back down the field after an interception and scores a touchdown to tie the game. And they did have 1 second left. I don't care what the officials did. I mean, you probably win that game. But it just feels like, because that's the most recent thing that we've seen, okay, Rattler's got it now. But if you put the statistics up, they're almost identical. They both have only thrown 10 incompletions, have 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and the yardage difference is really negligible, based off of what they did. So I think this game is going to go a long way towards cementing whoever is going to be the starter. And I think because of what Jim said during the show about not having a veteran quarterback in there, Moore has basically had to prepare 2 quarterbacks to start. Get Rattler up to speed so he feels confident that he can run the offense. At the same time, you're developing a rookie quarterback to be up to speed and be able to run the offense if he has to. I think he would like to kind of give him the veteran starts for a little while, then you kind of transition to the rookie once you think the rookie is able to handle it. But I don't know if he has that luxury with Rattler, because Rattler is really only a 1-year veteran.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to say, okay, Rattler gets the job because he's the veteran. I just feel like if Rattler can score a touchdown with the starters on offense this week, that should be enough to put him against Arizona in 2 weeks. If you see the same thing happen again this week that we've seen the first 2 preseason games, where the offense doesn't do hardly anything with the starters, but in the second half, if it's Shuck coming in and Shuck suddenly starts putting points on the board, it's a tough call. To me, it's a tough call to make that decision and go, okay, that's my guy. Rattler's got to close the deal tomorrow for him to get the starter job. Otherwise, I don't know where Moore is going. I think it's going to be a discussion, and there'll be a situation where a quarterback gets a quick hook if he feels like the starter cannot get this offense going.
I agree with you, Alan. I do legitimately believe that the battle comes down to whichever quarterback plays better against Denver, because the competition has been that close so far. And I've written this in an article, and I've called it one of the worst case scenarios for Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier and this staff. Is the fact that neither one of these guys now. Neither Rattler or Shuck has stunk the joint up.
No.
But neither one has really stepped forward either to take clear control of this battle. And that's why I call it the worst case, a worst case scenario. Because when you have 2 young quarterbacks, and let's face it, Rattler isn't a rookie, but he's not that far removed from it experience-wise. So, you need your young guy to take control, whoever it's going to be, to take control of this battle sooner rather than later, so they can get the bulk of the reps, because repetition is going to be the key here. And neither one of these guys have managed to do that. Now, I'll say this, in listening to Jim talk about Doug Nussmeier's personality, his mentality, and his overall approach to the game, it does make me believe that unless Shuck clearly outplays Rattler on Saturday, that Rattler is going to get the start for at least Arizona to start the regular season, because that'll give Nussmeier and probably Scott Tolzien a little bit of time in game situations to kind of analyze things on the fly with your rookie Shuck. I still do believe that they drafted Shuck to start this season at some point. And unless something monumental happens, Shuck is going to be your starter. Now, if Rattler comes out and plays balls out, similar to the way Drew Brees played for the San Diego Chargers after they traded for Phillip Rivers. Brees just said, hey, I ain't giving up this job. Just like Jim said, in his own experience as a veteran, when someone said, well, you might be the backup, hell I am. That would be great. If Rattler just played balls out and holds off Shuck, because that means he's playing well. That means the Saints are winning games. But again, listening to Jim, I just kind of feel like that Shuck is going to be given a little bit more time on the sidelines in regular season game action for Nussmeier, Tolzien, and even Kellen Moore to go over with him. Hey, did you see that last drive? What would you have done differently? What did you see Spencer do that you could help him along with? It's just a gut feeling that I have, but I do agree with you that I truly believe that this battle legitimately comes down to whoever plays better against the Denver Broncos on Saturday.
It's crazy to think that this competition is that close. Because like I said, I didn't think it'd be that close. I think there was going to be a competition, but ultimately it was like, let's say it's a competition, but it's really just going to be Tyler Shuck. That's how I anticipated this thing going. But I think it's gone a completely different direction, which makes it intriguing. All right, before we close out the night, guys, we kind of already did this, but we'll at least have it, and people can, chop up the tape and use this against us if it doesn't work out our way, right? So all of you guys that are clipping, go ahead and clip this. The question is, who starts week 1 for the New Orleans Saints? We'll hear everybody's prediction. For me, the week 1 starter is going to be Spencer Rattler.
Alan?
As of Friday, August 22nd, before the Denver game.
That is important. People clipping. That is important. Make sure to clip.
Right.
Yes.
I would say Spencer Rattler has the head start to start in 2 weeks against the Cardinals. But that could all change with one game. That's how close this is. But right now, I would think that Rattler is going to start because Shuck is going to be like the Drake May. He is going to be the guy they're going to bring in eventually, but not yet.
Yeah, I'm going to make it unanimous. You said things could change with one game, Alan. Tomorrow is Saturday's game against Denver. It could change with one drive. But as we sit here, as we sit here on Friday, I believe that Spencer Rattler is going to open the season as well. Being on record myself since the draft pick was made, Tyler Shuck is going to be. They want Tyler Shuck to be their starter at some point, but Spencer Rattler is going to be your starter against the Arizona Cardinals. I believe that as well.
Well, there you have it, folks. We'll have a really fun episode on Wednesday.
Yeah,
because regardless of who gets named the starter, and I assume the starter is going to be named by Wednesday.
I don't assume anything, man.
I could be wrong. So either way, whether the starter has been announced or not, Wednesday is going to be a really fun show. You're going to have a lot of Saints fans going a million different ways. I think I'd bring the poll back out for the first time since the end of last season, and ask the audience after Saturday's game who should start. And then we just have a whole episode, letting you guys kind of throw some ideas at us, throw some things in the comments, and just let Bob and I kind of respond to them and give our opinions. Because this is the first true quarterback competition we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Bob and I have kind of kept quiet about it. So maybe Wednesday is the time that we don't keep quiet about it anymore, and we really just let it fly. But if you're down to be a gunslinger on Wednesday, Bob, I'm down to be a gunslinger on Wednesday. That's all I'm saying.
We all got, Alan's wearing 17. You got 17 in the background. I got 17 in the background. He was a gunslinger at quarterback. I have that gunslinger mentality. Yeah. So at some point, at some point you're going to draw it out of me. But both of our shows next week Allen's Under the Dome on Tuesday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern time, 8 Central, folks. And then our Bayou Blitz on Wednesday. We're going to have roster, a roster to talk about too, because the initial active rosters have to be set by 4 p.m. Eastern time next Tuesday. So we're going to be able to talk about some of the roster surprises, some omissions that surprised us, and different things that have happened since the Denver game, as well as the quarterback position.
Yeah, you guys saw Donovan Peoples-Jones today?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a little disappointed.
I was struggling to figure out a game or a drive that he was even out on the field.
Yeah.
It was hard to find him.
Yeah.
And we have seen 3 trades in about a week, and I know these trades aren't over with. Brian Robertson got traded today to the 49ers for a 6th-round pick.
That surprised me. That surprised me.
Loved Brian Robinson Jr. for
same.
Well,
loved it.
The talk was that Robinson was going to get cut regardless. The 49ers just made this trade, and this is where I was going with this. They made that trade so they didn't have to risk him going to waivers and having someone like the Saints jump on it, which is why I think the Saints did not make a trade, because they felt like he was more likely to get cut. I was looking through, and of course, we traded for the receiver. We traded right after the Jaguars game, Colin Saunders for an offensive center from the Jaguars. So I think you're going to see quite a few trades, because teams are not going to risk certain players to go through waivers because they can't make the roster. So I that's going to be the really interesting part. If the Saints make another trade for, say, an offensive lineman, or they make a trade for a running back that they don't think is going to make it through waivers, do we sit here also talking about, oh my God, they just traded more assets away from next year's draft to get a guy that they could have waited for him just to get cut? So I think that's something else to watch for.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And you look at the way a guy like Velus Jones has played, or the experience that a Brandon Cooks brings, or suddenly the Saints have safety depth. Maybe they move a Jordan Howden. So folks don't assume. I agree with what you said, Alan, and the Saints only have so many draft picks to trade. Maybe some of these players could be on the move. I would love a player for player swap. Is similar to what they pulled off. Saunders for Fortner. If they target someone like you said at a running back or an offensive line position, is someone that might be getting cut from another team, but they don't want to risk him to the waiver wire. They have a couple tradable assets. I threw out, Jones, Howden, even Brandon Cooks. I'm, teasing that one as a little bit of a surprise. Brandon Cooks is not a lock for this roster, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think he is.
No, now that you've got a big receiver, it would be hard to keep him if you think that you can get a better player in a place that you're a lot thinner.
Yep.
I'm just looking for something here.
You want my top 2 dream targets?
Go ahead.
One is an actual target. The other is just pipe dream, because it's my podcast. I can say what I want. I would love to see Travis Etienne in New Orleans. I know it hasn't worked well in Jacksonville the last few years, but it's one of those I haven't seen the Saints take a swing at the fences in a while. I would like to see them take a swing at a fence, right? And Etienne coming to New Orleans, he'd split carries, right? You're not going to have as much wear and tear on the body as in Jacksonville. and he provides you some similarities, but also something different than what you have in the current running back room, especially if you don't have the faith in Kendre Miller. The second one, they need a big body receiver. I know a big body receiver who's been in New Orleans before. Bring Keith Kirkwood home. Right? He's probably gonna make the team in Baltimore, or at least be on the practice squad. But why not bring Keith Kirkwood home? That's the pipe dream one because Keith belongs in New Orleans, but that's just me.
Well, the name I'm hearing, not going to the Saints, but just hearing out there as a possible trade candidate is the New York Giants offensive lineman Evan Neal.
Yeah.
He was a top 10 pick and did not pan out at tackle. He's being moved inside to guard. Well, what's the Saints' glaring weakness right now? Guard.
But they also have a tackle that's moved to guard. That was a first-round pick.
Yes.
I know he's
yes.
hurt, but you're already dealing with that.
Right, exactly. So if you're looking for a possible veteran offensive lineman to come in that could play tackle guard, Evan Neal is a great candidate out there that I just can't see the Giants just cutting outright.
No.
They would want to get something for him, even if it's a day 3 pick. It's just a possibility because I'm telling you, I watched Ruiz last week, and I've seen Three Stooges footage that looked cleaner than what I saw out there.
Yup, I literally hear a Looney Tunes theme playing in my head every time a snap is taken with Ruiz on that offensive line.
So Evan Neal and Jameis Winston, package deal. New Orleans. Need a veteran quarterback. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm all for
Yeah, why not?
You know, the Giants really like him, like Winston too. So
I don't know how it's going to work because they have and people forget about the fourth one. So I'm just going to name them all out. Is you have Russ, you have Jackson Dart, you have Jameis, and the one that everybody doesn't talk about is Tommy DeVito. Say what you will about Tommy DeVito, but he had a stretch of games in the NFL where he was a competent NFL quarterback. Not all 4 of those guys are going to be rostered. Now, Tommy DeVito is probably the odd man out. But they could also sit there and be like, well, Russ has trade value.
And he
Jameis
does.
Has trade value.
And he does.
So where Tommy DeVito probably doesn't have as much actually really does not have as much trade value, if any trade value, I would think.
I didn't expect, and I still kind of don't expect both Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston to make the New York Giants roster. Not with Jackson Dart there. Yeah, same.
Yeah, that's
there's no way.
Yeah, I feel the same with those two because that's a waste of assets because you know you plan on starting Dart some point this season. So likely Jameis Winston never sees the field. He would welcome a trade to a team where he has an opportunity to start. The other quarterbacks I see out there, they're talking about cut trade candidates. Hendon Hooker from the Lions.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Another young guy in the room, though. It just wouldn't.
Yeah, another young
You're
guy.
Right. You're right.
Kenny Pickett, who did play in Kellen Moore's offense.
That's the one that I expect to happen, guys. That's the one that I expect to happen. And I'll hate it, but it makes sense.
No, and then, of course, the final one is Kirk Cousins out there in Atlanta. But I just can't see Atlanta eating that much of a salary cap.
No.
It's going to have to be someone like the Rams would trade for him to back up, following what Jim was saying.
Yeah.
The bad back for Matthew Stafford. You have a veteran quarterback who has his own health issues, but he can run that offense. It wouldn't take him long to get up to speed. But they would have to be able to ship some of that cap hit over to a team like the Rams.
You guys want one other quarterback for a reunion?
Teddy Bridgewater?
No, he signed with Tampa, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, he
I was
did.
going with a guy who's played in Kellen Moore's offense twice, albeit it was the practice squad. Let's bring Ian Book back to New Orleans. Okay, good night, everybody. Good night, everybody.
Oh God. Yeah, when people bring up, it's not fair. Spencer's got to play with Spencer Rattlers had to play with, borderline street free agents and third stringers and stuff. I'm like, well, what about Ian Book?
Ian Book
played the COVID game.
Television.
I think Ian Book's official new podcast name, thanks to Brendan Boylan, is Poor Ian Book. Because whenever Brendan brings his name up in conversation, that's exactly how he starts the sentence, with "Poor Ian Book," and then just goes on.
Man.
But I mean, look, in the defense of Ian Book, because I know we all have our jokes, and he really was not built to be an NFL quarterback.
No.
Really good college quarterback, and that's not an insult to him. There's plenty of guys every year that's a really good college quarterback.
Jay Kaner.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good example. Tim Tebow was a great college quarterback, it just didn't work. We can go on and on, right? Even Kellen Moore was a great college quarterback. It just didn't work in the NFL. Ian Book fits that, and I know we have our gripes about him, but my God, like I just joked, he almost got murdered on national television. And
That game was an embarrassment.
And
for the league.
I gotta feel bad for him.
That game was an embarrassment for the league. There's no way that game should have been played.
Nope.
You postponed a Titans-Ravens game with far less people, but because this was a nationally televised game, you put that garbage on, and I just shook my head at it. I mean, I wasn't even mad that they lost. I was mad they were made to play that game.
Same.
Real quick, because I know Kellen Moore played at Boise State. Was Kellen Moore part of that team at Boise State that went to the BCS? Oh no, played in a bowl game and ran the Statue of Liberty play, and you had the guy that proposed to the cheerleader on the field after the game and stuff. Was that
he? He wasn't. If he was,
Jared Zabransky was the quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay.
If Kellen was on that team, it was only as a backup. Kellen took the team, took Boise State to a couple BCS type bowls, major bowls, but he was not part of the team for that one.
Okay.
Let's see if he was a backup. Like if he was that would be my thing.
I mean, honestly, the first time I really paid attention to Kellen Moore was when he was being groomed to be the Cowboys head coach.
Yeah.
Because the Cowboys, there's nothing more fun during a football season than reading Cowboys fan pages and how much they hate everything.
Yeah.
You talk about the Saints going from we're either 16-0 or 17 now, 17-0 or 0-17. That is like the Cowboys every other series on an offensive drive. We're either a 17-0 unstoppable team or 0-17. So they're very fun to read. The bipolar fan base. He was redshirted. Okay.
In 2007 for that Fiesta Bowl. He then started the Fiesta Bowl 2 years later against TCU.
Okay. Man, I'm telling you, I don't know what happens. It happened to me once my kids started getting closer to high school age. It's like years become blurs.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm like going, holy shit, that was 20 years ago, 2005,
No, that hit me. I wouldn't say it hit me this year, but since you just brought up 2005, when I saw it was the 20-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, I was like, it's been 20 years. Like it's been 20 years since that happened.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I know. And I can remember everything about that weekend.
I'm sure.
And that, this is the Cliff Notes version. Basically, that Friday morning, I'm at work and I'm listening to the morning radio guy chewing out a guy from Shell on Bob Del Giorno on WWL radio, chewing out a representative from Shell saying, why you're evacuating the rigs? This thing's not even going to the Gulf. It's going to skirt Florida and turn back out to the Atlantic. And then next thing you know, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. A guy from in the office brings me over a weather forecast, and it's showing Katrina heading right for Louisiana. I'm like, what the hell is this? And he says, this is what Shell's got. This is what Shell's forecasting. And then the Saints go to a preseason game that night against the Ravens, and it was eerie. You could see as the news was coming that this storm was approaching Louisiana. You can see the buzz in the crowd. They're not watching the game anymore. Then people just start leaving in droves. It was the most surreal preseason game I'd ever been in my life. And we left that Sunday morning. This was Friday night. We left Sunday morning. So it is hard to believe it's been 20 years.
Yeah. Well, on that note, guys, I believe our time with you, the loyal fans and viewers, is just about up. We will be back next week for, like I said, more of a gunslinging, thought-provoking, fun, off-the-wall type episode. The episode's Bob Rose absolutely lives for. Alan, thank you for joining us tonight.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Yes. Thank you to Jim Everett. I always fun. And thank you to you folks, all of you that tune in. But a special thank you to Shireen DeWalt and the people at Get Checked or Check Out. Get Checked or Check Out, of course, sponsors the original Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise. This year's date, well, I guess technically next year's date, the 2026 cruise is going to be Thursday, March 26th through Monday, March 30th. Now, this year's cruise is a little bit different. It's sailing out of Jacksonville, Florida, not New Orleans, sailing out of Jacksonville with destination to the Bahamas. So we're excited about that one. It's a Carnival Cruise Line ship. Book today because the cabins are going fast. I already have. My family and I are most likely flying directly into Jacksonville, but if you're coming from New Orleans or the Gulf Coast region, they are including a couple packages where you fans can get together and travel together from New Orleans to Jacksonville. But either way, book your tickets today. It's only a down payment with the balance not due until January of 2026. And like I said, it's going to be Thursday, March 26th through Monday, March 30th. Guys, if you've never been, this cruise is a blast. All the Saints people we're all together. So it's just like one big family reunion. We have our own section of the ship. This year's Saints players that have already confirmed that they're going are Delvin Breaux, Tyrone Hughes, Michael Lewis, and Pierre Thomas. We're still waiting for word from Courtney Roby and Lance Moore. Courtney has gone the last few years. Lance has gone in the past. Still waiting for confirmation from them. But those guys are intermixed with you the entire time, those guys and their families. And you just have a blast. You eat dinner together. You hang out on the beach together. You hang out on the deck together. There's Q&A sessions with these guys where you're just chilling with them. And you can book your tickets now through Summer Cochran at Seven Seas Travel. Summer's number is 985-643-6958. That's a cell phone, so you can either call or text, whichever is more convenient to you. And when you do, make sure you mention the Bayou Blitz. Make sure you drop that to her, and she'll take care of you. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think Summer's on vacation the remainder of this week. So don't be surprised if she doesn't get back to you right away. If you have any problems getting through, drop me a message. and I'll set you up, or I'll let you know when the best time to get a hold of her. Or you can contact Shireen DeWalt at Get Checked or Check Out, and you can also do so if you're interested in one of the group packages that are leaving from New Orleans to Jacksonville, for the ship boarding and departure. And as you all know, we at the Bayou Blitz, along with Get Checked or Check Out, continue to promote monthly health awareness aspects. And August is Neurosurgery Awareness Month. This is a specialized branch of medicine that's focusing on the surgical treatment of disorders affecting the brain, spine, and peripheral nerves. Degenerative spine conditions, brain tumors, severe head traumas, spinal cord injuries, and intracranial hemorrhaging are just a handful of the causes where neurosurgery can step in and be helpful. And not just with this, but any other health issue. Make sure you're keeping up on your appointments. Be aware of your health. Be aware of your loved one's health. But if you get the worst news, or if a family member or loved one gets the worst news, there are different ways to turn. And that's why Get Checked or Check Out is here. And make sure that you check out their website. It is tcynow.org. It's at the bottom of our screen there. Get Checked or Check Out is there for us, but they need our help to be there for us. The original Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise is just one way that they gather up donations and money for the research, awareness, and programs that they're running. They're going to be doing other programs and events through the course of the season, so make sure that you keep tuned to the Bayou Blitz for that. And like I said, drop me a line if you have any questions. Go to the website, help them help us. Bless you for whoever did that. See, monthly health awareness. But yeah, get checked or check out. Help them help us. Make a donation today and book your cabins for the 2026 Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise today. Hope to see you there.
All right, guys. Thanks again so much for tuning in to another edition of the Bayou Blitz podcast. Make sure you tune into us next Wednesday. Like I said, a little bit more of a fun, free-flowing gunslinger type of episode. And I know Alan and Bob will also have that for you guys with Under the Dome on Tuesday night. So until next week, I hope you guys enjoy the final preseason game of the season, and don't hold back those comments. We're really looking forward to them. Until next week, hope you guys find some peace, spread love, practice positivity. We'll see you then. Who dat?
Night.